Hello, my name is Antonio Sangio here with Introspective Hypnosis again, and today I would like to address one of the questions that I was asked through my social media or sometimes emails. The question is, Antonio, what works for you during the sessions? How are you able to provide your clients the experience they need in order for them to obtain results? Because every session is so unique, so I was wondering what worked for you. So I actually thank you for the question, and there's something very true. Every session is unique, and because every client is unique, every soul, every incarnated soul has its own journey, its own agenda, lessons, traumas and entrapment from past lives, right? So this is what happened. At least this is what I experienced when I was learning. When I learned hypnosis, I was taught to, number one, read a script for the induction. Number two, to follow certain steps during the session. And I knew that. I knew this right now. I knew how to read the script. I knew what the steps were necessary during the session. I thought I knew everything I needed to know in order to facilitate a hypnosis session. Here's the problem. I knew the structure, I knew the induction. My client didn't know that. So I was kind of forcing my client to fit into a structure that might not work for them, that might not work for that was not working for their reality. So in a way, my sessions were rigid, and this was causing problems, not only for me, because I was initially was getting 50-50 success rate, and I didn't understand what was happening. What we were told is that if it was not working, is because we were not following the steps, the necessary steps. And that was creating some, not only confusion, but stress when I was facilitating sessions, because I wanted my client to go according to the structure of the technique, when actually that is impossible. I cannot force my client to feed, how can I say this? I cannot force my client to feed the structure of the session, because they don't know anything. Their soul doesn't know anything about this. What I learned is that I had to adapt, not improvise, because when you improvise, that means that you don't know what you're doing and you're going to come up with something, you know. When you adapt, it's like you know the techniques, and you're going to adapt to what the session brings to you. In other words, you're going to just go with your client's soul and visiting different events and adapting to what the session brings to you. There's no way that you can be ready for what's coming. There's no way you can be ready for what your client brings to a session. So what I learned afterwards, and this is actually what triggered me to start searching for other techniques, other ways to do it, is that number one, I needed to adapt, right? Number two, I needed to respect my client's belief system. I needed to respect my client's reality. And I had to flow with the session. I could not force this. Whenever you become rigid with the session sooner or later, it will break. It's going to be painful for you. It's going to be painful for your client, in the sense that the client will tell you, didn't feel anything, nothing really happened, or what happened was not according to my expectations, and then your client is frustrated, you're frustrated. And this is, I would say, one of the main reasons why people stop practicing hypnosis after learning a specific technique. So let's talk about what worked for me. What is it that I learned over the years, and how my technique changed. And I'm going to take what my teacher, Jose Luis Cabuli, said to us during the class. And in the end, it doesn't matter how many techniques you learn. What matters is that you become the technique. So our responsibility during the sessions is not to the technique, is to our client. That's the commitment. So during the session, if our clients deviate from the structure that we're supposed to follow, right, we need to adapt, because what's important is what they're experiencing. It is not what we want them to experience. So what worked for me? Let's start with number one. As I said, being flexible. Imagine having a huge cube of ice, a huge ice cube, right? And try to fit that into a bottle, try to fit that into a teapot or a specific container. It's not gonna work. It's rigid, it's hard, you cannot mold it to whatever you need in order to fit in that container. And that's gonna be painful for you, frustrating for you, because it's not going to work. So what works during the sessions is to be flexible. So we're going to use the same example of the ice cube, but now melted. Now it's going to be water. Now, when you are like water in a session, actually Bruce Lee said this, right? He said, be like water. And what it means is that if you're like water, you're able to adapt to every form, every container. If you are like water during the session, you're able to adapt to what your client is bringing to you. You're able to adapt to what your client is experiencing. It doesn't matter if you believe in what your client is experiencing. It doesn't matter if you agree or do not agree. The session is not about you, it's about your client. So when you are like water, you adapt to what the session brings. You flow with the session. You go through these cracks and this you travel in time and space with your client, if you want to call it that way. Adapt, be flexible. Let me give you another example. Think of martial arts, right? You have, and in this example, I'm not trying to say that one martial art is better than the others. I'm just using an example. Let's use, for example, I don't know, Kung Fu. I was watching a movie a couple of days ago, and in Kung Fu, right, there's kicking, punching, attacking, defending. There's all kind of moves, and it's hard and it's tough and it's painful because you're hitting each other, right? So when you're trying to force your client to follow your structure, the structure of the technique that you learn, it's going to be like that. It's going to be painful. You're going to bump into each other. It's not going to work. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be hard. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be tired during the session. Your client is going to be frustrated because you're forcing them to follow your agenda when that is not the right way to do it. Now, let's think of a different martial arts. For example, Aikido. In Aikido, what Aikido, that martial art does is it uses the energy of your opponent. So it receives the energy and it deflects it and turns it into something that you can use against them. So it's not attacking, it's defending yourself, but at the same time using their energy for something that you can return to them. Right? So when you watch somebody practicing Aikido, you see a flow. There's no stress, there's no kick, punch, there's no stop. Everything is like a dance, like a ballet. You move and you receive and then you send back. And this is the same thing we do in the session. We can only receive what the client is giving me, and I have to find a way to use that to help them. So it is, if you want to call it that way, it's kind of a spiritual Aikido, right? So again, be flexible, adapt, do not improvise. Improvising means that you don't know what you're doing and you're coming up with something. You need to adapt. Apply the techniques and adapt. What else worked for me? We're going to talk about number 2. Number 2, stay out of the comfort zone. I'll say it again. Stay out of the comfort zone. In the comfort zone, nothing interesting happens. In the comfort zone, you're not going to learn anything new. In the comfort zone, you're not going to evolve in your practice, right? So what do I mean by saying stay out of the comfort zone? What I notice is in people that practice hypnosis, people that took my class, and even some colleagues that practice other techniques, it's like once the issue that I see, at least this is what I see, the issue is that once they learn a technique, they make that technique a religion. Only that exists, only that works, and only in that way, and only if you follow these steps. And they feel comfortable with it because, number one, hey, I only have to read a script. That's a big problem right there, because if you're reading the script, how can you pay attention to what your client is experiencing if you're putting them, or if you're actually helping them go into a trance themselves, right? So, number one, what I said is that stay out of the comfort zone. I noticed that a lot of people feel comfortable, and I mean, don't take me wrong, it takes some time to get comfortable, to learn the techniques, to master them. So when people feel comfortable with it, it took them so much time to do that staying out of the comfort zone or learning something new, it makes them feel uncomfortable. It happened to me as well. Sometimes I felt stupid applying some techniques when I didn't know if they were going to work or not. You make yourself vulnerable. You make yourself, actually you can not project, but you can, let's say, make mistakes, and some people don't like making mistakes, and we learn from mistakes. So you make mistakes, happens once, you learn it. So stay out of the comfort zone, learn new techniques, learn different way of doing things. Whenever you're in a session, not only one technique will work with your clients, not only one induction will work with all your clients. You need to learn different inductions, you need to learn different techniques. It is not only about past life regression. Some people don't go to past life because they need to deal with whatever they're experiencing in this life. If you cannot handle what you're experiencing now, why do you care about what happened in the past? So what happens when clients go to events in this life? How do you navigate that? So you need to learn different ways, different techniques, and different ways to facilitate a session. If you stay out of the comfort zone, you're closing your eyes to everything else that can happen in the session. You're closing your eyes and you're closing your mind to all of the things that you could accomplish during the sessions and different ways in which you can help your clients. So my advice to you is stay out of the comfort zone. And this is the main reason why people quit practicing hypnosis, because I learned this, I learned it this way, and this is all I'm going to do. And by the way, this other thing does not exist, this other thing does not exist. Only what I learned and what I feel comfortable with exists. Big mistake. Learn new ways, be flexible, be open to learn new things, feel uncomfortable. If you're feeling uncomfortable, that means that you're learning something new. That means that you're evolving. As soon as you're practicing a technique and you feel comfortable, get out of the comfort zone. That means that you're not learning anything new. Feel uncomfortable. And with that, I'm going to go to the number 3. The number three is do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of things that can happen during the session. And I give an example. Some people learn, and I learned it myself that way, some people learn techniques to, in a session, go to past lives or go to different events and just ask questions. And whenever a client was experiencing something painful or traumatic, we were taught to remove them from the experience. You know, and in a way, whenever you're learning hypnosis, it's a relief for you, for the practitioner, because you don't need to deal with that, which is very, I don't want to say it's difficult, but it's challenging, right? So do not be afraid with this. If what's going to happen, either you want it or you don't, sooner or later you will have clients going back to painful events, sad memories, maybe when a loved one passed away, or maybe a past life where they were tortured and killed. So your client is going to experience all of this. There's a reason why that soul went to that event, because that means that it's something pending, something that soul needs to complete in order to end with the entrapment of their soul. Your obligation is to your client. Your obligation is not to yourself to feel comfortable. So you need to accompany your client through that experience and allow them to relieve that, because that's gonna get the most healing for them. So it is not about you. Some people don't want to visit sad events, not because of the clients. They use that as an excuse. Oh, no, I don't want my clients to visit sad memories because it's traumatic for them. No. Your clients will go wherever they want to go. And if you don't want to allow them to visit sad memories memories is because it is triggering something on you the practitioner. And if you're being triggered by with what your client is experiencing, hey, you should get a session, because there's something there in your subconscious that is causing you to feel that way. So do not be afraid. Allow your clients to experience what they have to experience. Accompany your clients during the session to the sad memories, sad events. What happened if somebody was molested? What happened if somebody was raped? What happened if they were killed in a past life? Are you just going to close your eyes and pretend it didn't happen? Are you going to remove them from the experience? Are you going to ask them to look for another memory because you don't feel comfortable with it? No. I would say that you should not be afraid to experience whatever in a session, because you are not in control, your client is. Another thing that can happen, spirit attachments. Some people and SAC techniques will say that does not exist. I respect their opinion. In my reality, in my techniques, they do exist. And no session will be complete and no therapeutic work will be complete if you don't take that into consideration. Because attachments manifest, lost souls attached to your client's vibrational field will manifest during the session. Sooner or later, if you practice this type of hypnosis, you will run into them. You have two options. You can either close your eyes and pretend it doesn't exist, or you can stop being afraid and start communicating with that soul that should become another client for you. That's a lost soul that is confused, afraid, that doesn't know what's happening. Some of them have not even realized that their body died. Some of them are looking for revenge. So who is going to help them? They become your client. They came with the client, and the reason why they came to you is because you can help them. If you just close your eyes, what are you doing? Remember, the session is not about you. The session is about your client, helping your client and helping the souls that come with your client. So that's all I wanted to share with you based on the question that I was asked. Antonio, again, the question was, what works for you? What I share in this video is what works for me. Might not work for other people, but in my reality, it works. It provides results for me. It provides results for my client, and it helps me evolve. And my techniques, it keeps changing, and my style keeps changing. And that's what I think it should be, the way it should be. We should keep evolving. So anyway, if you have any questions or you want to learn a little bit more about what I do, you can visit my website is antoniosangio.com. I'll put it here, or you can send me an email at info@antoniosangio.com. I'll also put it here. If you considering learning a technique, I do train people in introspective hypnosis. I'm not going to say is the best technique and this is the best of the best and the other techniques don't work. It's not true. There are many other techniques that are as good as introspective hypnosis. This one works for me, and what I like about this is that it works with the soul, and it helps the soul end the entrapment from memories, past lives, maybe time in the womb, maybe during childhood, and this is what works for me and works for my clients. So if you want to learn this, visit my website. I have a class coming in May, right? And then you can see the list of the other classes that are coming for the rest of the year. Thank you very much for watching this video, and until next time, bye-bye.